Bill O'Reilly little.
Yeah. We no, no, Bill O'Reilly. What are we talking about here? We're
No,
live.
just
We're
yeah, we're
live.
live. We're live. Oh my god.
Welcome to the Comic Binge. I am one of your hosts, Paul Herman, and I'm very blessed and very happy to have the legend himself on Angshuman from the For Love of Comic Books, who I've been wanting to have on the show for a long time. We've kind of just it's been hard. Life's crazy. Life is
It
is
is
whatever.
crazy.
It is crazy, but we finally got together, and it's. I feel like once I like to do it more than once a year, but that's just me. That's I don't know if you're a busy man. You're a legend. I'm not. I just hang out.
Sure.
So I don't. But you're a busy man now. Tell
Yeah,
what have you been up
start
to?
the let's start with some comedy, right? That's what your attitude
Stop it.
is over here.
Stop it.
No,
All right,
it's
but
it's
what
it's
have you been up
great to
to?
be on all the time. Yeah, we've been I don't know, we've done like 5 or 6 of these live streams
Something like that. Yeah.
together. Hey Eric, we did the action scenes, and the last time we were on, it has been more than a year, but the last time we were on, we did this exchange like where
Mm-hmm.
I recommend you read something and you recommend I read something that we haven't read before, and then we have one of these streams, and that just was so much fun
It
that
was awesome.
we decided that we're going to do another one of them. For some reason, it's ended up being a long time, but yes, it has been a busy year in the meantime. I've started a small micro publishing company publishing comics here in India with my wife and started writing my first comic. This is stuff that I've been up to. My YouTube channel, which I love very much, has taken a little bit of a hit, but I'm getting back into YouTube, and you, sir,
Coming back.
are part of that rehabilitation friend group that's bringing me back onto YouTube. So thank you so much for having me on your channel. And how has life been for you for the last 1 year since we last talked?
It feels like it's not been a year, but it's like it's crazy. I think you're right. You're right, though. You're right. No, it's life has been mostly good. Christmas is crazy. I was telling you before the show. I'm just excited about my football. My favorite sports team in the world, the Seahawks, are playing a ginormous game tomorrow, and I'm very nervous. I hope we win to go to the Super Bowl, but tough game. We'll see what happens. But yeah, just oh, I almost forgot to tell you before the show. I've been working on music for a while, and I've got my band project called Victory Formation. Just put out our first single,
Wow.
a couple months ago, and we'll be dropping a new single in the next month, and an EP. Our first EP will be in a few months later than that. So, really excited to get back into music. So for people who like shoegaze, post punk, in that vein, synthwave ish. That's if you like that stuff, you might like Victory Formation. Which go check out Which, by the way, the song title is a comic book reference. Angshuman. I
The
don't think you're gonna
single?
get it. It's
Oh yeah,
called.
because
It's
I'm
called.
so. All right. Let's see
All
if I
right, all
do
right, all right.
it. I
You
probably won't
won't,
get
dude.
it.
This is a
Yeah.
deep cut. All right.
Oh,
It's
okay,
called
okay.
Wink. All right. It's called Winkler Device.
Winkler device. Wait a minute. That sounds vaguely familiar. A Winkler device. All right. I'm not going to cheat by going to Google. I'm just going to try to
Okay.
keep
All
it in
right.
my head.
All right.
Is that something from the Fantastic Four?
it's, you're kind of close. It's
Kind of close.
actually kind of close. It's Spider-Man reference.
Okay. All right. So
It's
at least
it's
I'm
a
in the
it's a,
Marvel universe.
yeah. You're
It
it's
wasn't
pretty
just me.
impressive. It's pretty
Yeah.
impressive.
Yeah. All right. All
But
right.
no.
Nice.
All right. No. But it's Spider-Man reference, and it's when it's we're getting really deep here.
Mm-hmm.
When back in the '80s, like I think it's interesting because the editors and the writers, like when they were interchanging, they were fighting also, like there was bitterness on, like, being like, I don't like what you've done with this character kind of thing. So they a long story short, the Hobgoblin character's identity changed like 2-3 times of what the real like villain was going to be. And then
Mm-hmm.
the original writer was able to go back in the 90s. I want to say maybe it's even, I don't know what, I'm close enough, but the original writer eventually got to do what he wanted, and he retconned everything by something called the Winkler device.
Okay.
And so that's kind of come back into the comic books recently. And I think the Winkler device is such a ridiculous like concept. I'm like, to get back into music, what better way than use the Winkler device? So,
Right.
anyway, it's fun. So
Yeah.
yeah, if you
Well,
like go it's
it could have
all
been it could
over.
have been a deal with Mephisto instead or something like that. You know
Hey,
how much weirder is that?
I listen. I don't. I miss the marriage. I hope it comes back soon. I think it will, but I didn't like it, but I got it. The Mephisto thing was
Mhm.
interesting, but yeah, I want the marriage back. But anyway,
Right.
go on
Right.
you. You can follow the Victory Formation on Spotify. All the things are there, like YouTube. If you don't want Spotify, Bandcamp, it's all over there. Victory Formation. You'll see a black and white picture of me and my awesome pea coat and my friend Andrew, my old friend Andrew, old buddy. Yeah, making music's a blast. So go check it out.
Very cool.
Appreciate you. Yeah. Anyway, so that's it. So we yeah. So yeah, by the way, super proud of you. Even though we don't know super well, but like I'm super proud and think it's awesome you started a publishing company because
Thank you.
you, my friend, are putting your money where your mouth is, and I think my dream is to put out comics too one day, and I just say it's awesome that you're just going all out on it, and I just again respect it, and I just yeah
Well,
I know you're being successful because
oh well.
you're a talented person, so there you go.
It remains to be seen, but yes, it's a dream come true, and I know that you and many people in the audience, etc., will really feel that way. We're in that community where we know that making comics is in a way, it is a dream come true. So let's see how the publishing thing goes. So far, so good. The reception has been fantastic, and getting to know people in the comics community here in India, people who are making comics and self-publishing comics, I think that has been the best part of it. Finding so many other like-minded people doing different things, etc. I know in the United States, it's a lot bigger and it's a lot more
Yeah.
common and fests and all that stuff. In India, it's so nascent and so niche that it's really night and day difference. But thank you so much, and I'm also very happy to be back here again, doing one of these exchange reads
Woo!
things again. And just like last time, this time it's got some similarities with last time. You want to talk a little bit about what we did last time, or we want to just jump into today's without any context?
I mean, well, just really quick for people that don't, you said it best. We keep it pretty simple, because Anshuman, for those who don't know, Anshuman and I, because we live in different countries, different cultures, and we're gonna reread and be into probably different things, which is awesome because what one thing I love about art and with a capital A, like it might be music, comics, or whatever medium you choose. It's really cool to like have people and have friends like Anshuman who can introduce you to things that you otherwise would be like, I was on my radar, didn't think about it, or like I saw that, wasn't really sure about it, but because you respect someone so much, like a friend like Anshuman, you're like, you know what? Because Anshuman's a G, I'm gonna check this out. And so I thought it'd be really cool because Anshuman, you self-admittedly aren't as into superhero comics as much as I am because that's what I grew up on.
Hey,
And
wait a minute, Look at this, look at this. This is like
okay.
I'm sick and tired of
Hold on.
people bad mouthing me and my love for
Hold on. Hold on.
superhero
Try.
comics. Yeah.
Show us again here.
Yes,
What do you
this
got?
is
What do you got?
this is my homemade Darwin Cook T-shirt,
No, that's
featuring
tight.
Batman,
That's
Robin
pretty.
up
That's
here, but
pretty rad.
Joker's down there somewhere. But
That's cool.
no,
That's
but
cool.
this
Right
is
on. Right on.
but yes, I think your point is, jokes aside, is like I love superhero comics. As a kid, I read a lot of them, and I do still read them, but they don't make up the majority of my comics reading anymore. Which is why the reverse of it is true. Is when we do one of these things, I love this because I get to dip my toes back into superhero comics because that's what you like to recommend. And you recommend things that I've heard of. And I'm aware of their reputation last time and this
Right.
time, both of them being that way. And it's a perfect opportunity for me to finally, because otherwise, there's so many things that people are always talking about that it's and this is true for any kind of comic, superhero or non superhero, is just
Yeah.
having someone say, hey, here's a little homework assignment for you. And on this
Exactly.
weekend, we're going to chat about it online. It makes it concrete and it makes you go of all these arbitrary choices I could have made, one's being made for me. And thank you for that.
Yes, yes, and thank you for even wanting to be willing to do this. And I think, and that's the cool thing is I have no, because when I pick something, I mean, well, I'll probably say this every time we have a show like this, is like when I have something, I want to make sure I'm not just throwing like anything at you because I know I want you to like it. I don't want to just make you like, hey, I think this is really cool. You should read this. Like, I want to find something that you're going to enjoy, not just like to read it just because I want you to read it, right? Like, I want actually to, I want you to love it, or at least I think you'll connect to it in some way. And I think same for you. And I think that that's really like that's what's important. So I want people to know when I choose something, I have a high respect for it. I'm not just throwing it out there as like willy nilly. Like, hey, read the Clone Saga, Angshima. I'm not gonna make you read the Spider-Man Clone Saga for God's sakes. Like I would not want. I think I love it to an extent, but like
Well,
I
yeah.
wouldn't make you read it. Right.
Is that the one with Ben Riley?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
So you're a G.
So it's
You
the
get
same.
it.
It's the same. It's the same thing the other way around as well. Because there'll be lots of things I love, but when recommending, and this is true for recommending, when recommending, I want to recommend to the person specifically. So there are some books that I would say, oh, I recommend to anyone, but they're actually not that common. Most of the time, it's like I want to recommend something to you according to who you are as a person, also. So there'll be certain things that I love, but I may not think that they've got a very good chance of working for you. But I might still try it, you know. And today's recommendation that I have for you is one of those curious ones where I'm like, I wonder what he's going to, you know, there's no, like, I think,
Dude.
so just for everyone's context, last time we did one of these things, you recommended Craven's Last Hunt, the Spider-Man story, which in
Yep.
spite of its, you know, reputation, I had never got around to reading. And I recommended Day Tripper by Fabio Moon and Gabriel
Fantastic.
Ba.
Loved it. Loved it.
And Day Tripper is one of those where I feel like this has a good chance of working for everyone. This has a very good
Absolutely.
chance of being accessible to everyone. So that was kind of like a safe bet. Of course, there are people who don't like it, but honestly, I was like, there's a very good chance because it is appealing in a certain way to a very wide range of readers. Today's
Right.
pick I'm less sure about, you know, because today's pick, I asked you to read Granville by Brian Talbot, written and drawn by Brian Talbot. And this is the first book in the Granville series of books. There are actually a total of 5 books in this, but only reading one. Whereas you asked me to read The Immortal Hulk by Al,
Al
we'll
Ewing.
call it the Al Ewing Immortal Hulk, Joe Bennett on most of the art.
Mostly are,
And
yeah.
this is one of those comic book series that I had heard of. Like I had heard a lot of people praise this, and there was some specific praise about this that was given to me by my viewers who are quite aware of my tastes and who are quite aware that I'm not that big a Marvel DC reader, or when I do read Marvel and DC, what I look for, you know, which
Right.
is something we'll get into. So I was particularly thrilled when you picked this because this has been on my radar at a general level, but also at a very specific level, as in it has been recommended to me in particular by people who know me. So this time, I think we're deviating a little bit from last time, where last time
Yep.
I was playing it safe and you had a reputed bestseller, and maybe the risk was it's very, you know, it's a little older, and this
Yeah.
one is more recent. This one's a much more
Yes.
modern comic. And so this time, I think the risk is a little bit more on my pick for you than your pick for me. Whereas
Maybe,
last
yeah.
time, maybe last time it was a little bit the other way around. Is not everyone enjoys the 70s or the 80s superhero comics that much
Fair
in the
enough,
year
yeah.
2024. So I'm really excited about this little exchange that we've got on today.
Yeah. So so you picked Granville for me. We'll do a general. We'll go deeper into each of our picks here in a second. But I think I liked your idea about wanting to go in and let's kind of just do maybe a quick reaction of both our takes on this. So you picked this for me. So we were, for those who don't know, we were trying to do this back in December. So I read this back then, and and for the peek behind the curtain, when I'm given because of like my time with my daughter and everything, like I try. It's very very hard for me to sit down and read comics. It's gotten easier. She's gotten older now. She's in kindergarten. She's kind of more independent, whatever. I can kind of get away with like not having to like watch her and be around her like nonstop all the time or give her my attention. Anyway, I say all that, but I still like to get the stuff in for the shows and whatnot. I read things while I pace in my house. Like I'm a big pacer to get exercise and steps. And what I do is I have a longer house and I have it downstairs. And when I'm downstairs in the morning, I get up early and I'll do that, listen to music or whatever. But I often, a lot, will read comic books on my iPad while I'm pacing. And so when you gave me this, I'm like, found this on my local library digitally. I'm like, hell yes. And I read it like that first week. And I'll be honest, Angshuman, I wasn't trying to like read it, but like I blew through it pretty quick. And not like, I was kind of surprised. I'm like, oh, so I had to like go back a little bit and go, oh yeah, I forgot. It'd been a long time.
Right.
But so just initial reaction without going too deep. I enjoyed it. I don't think I enjoyed it as much as Day Tripper, because Day Tripper really connected me from like from the family and the. It's deep AF, right? Like that's just what the story is. And this challenged me a little bit differently. We'll get into later, but. I want to say off the bat, I definitely am glad I enjoyed it. Or I definitely enjoyed it. I'm glad I read it. I definitely plan on reading more of it, like at some point, because there's something about this story. We'll get into later that just I am drawn to, which I said. Okay, really quick side note. You're gonna be really mad at me. Please don't be mad at me. All right, just be okay. It's not about this even. Last year, my friend, I read some of Akira.
Right. I know you made a post on it, a community post on it, saying that you're starting to read Akira. And since you are saying now that you read some of Akira, I am deducing, given my Sherlock Holmesian type of intellect, I'm deducing that completion did not happen, and that was probably because you didn't enjoy it as much. So
Well, okay.
we
So
could
just really
have
quick.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, it's really quick. All right, because I wanted to tell this to you because you
Yeah.
you really put on my radar because of our action episode, which I thought was such a fun thing to do.
Best action sequences in comics.
Yeah. Thank you. And so I have like a private like comic book club, which ironically I'm gonna meet up today. Again, we have another book we'll read up, which I'm excited for. My buddies, but they were like, we're gonna read Akira. And then they're like, hey, we'll just read volume. We picked volume one. They picked everyone picks one thing, and then we go on and read about it, whatever. And then we pick volume one, and they go, let's just do volume two. I was like, okay. And so I read volume one. I read volume two. I was the only person that wasn't as into it as everyone else was. And I was lambasted, man. I was like,
oh man.
And then
well, that's not
I was
fair.
lambasted. Well, no, in a good way. But then they were. It was almost there was. The punishment was the next person's pick was volume 3.
Oh gosh.
So I had to read volume 3. So I read volumes 1, 2, and 3. I like it more now. So just so you know, so I do plan on eventually finishing it. But I go back to Granville. There's something about Granville though. Like the only reason I bring that up with Akira is that there's something lurking in this that like it's intriguing me on a higher level than Akira does. But I definitely like Akira more now. I definitely, because I've read half of it,
Sure.
I want to finish it. So
Yeah.
but I don't.
Well,
I like it more now. Anyway,
we'll talk about Akira later
Different
or
time.
in a
Yeah,
different kind of thing. But
Sure.
yes, and one thing that I do want to get into before we jump into these things is why we recommended the things that we recommended to each other, just a little bit. So you recommended to me The Immortal Hulk. So a little bit to you, Paul, is why, in like maybe 2 or 3 sentences, why did you pick this to have me read when you had like, the ocean of possibility that you did in front of you? Why did you pick this particular comic for our exercise here?
Because again, so hard to 2 or 3 sentences with me. I'm long-winded. I think generally it is a superhero book masquerading, or excuse me, it is a psychological, like humanity-driven story masquerading as a superhero book, and it's so deep that yeah, it's just it hits on so many different levels. Is why I picked it. So,
Right.
but
So
again,
it's not
I have a lot more to say, but yeah, anyway.
right, right, sure, sure, sure. But it's like that thing like, oh, this guy's such a snob. He doesn't read superhero comics. This is more than just a
Oh yeah,
superhero comic, that kind of thing.
yeah,
Is
exactly.
that yeah? No, no, I get it, and I think I understand the thing. I mean, like again, I don't want to. I don't feel like there's a lot of non-superhero comics or independent comics or whatever that
Sure.
I don't enjoy as well. There's a lot of stuff
Right.
like it so like what it is, and I think the reason why I picked Granville for you is because I think, as I was saying last time, I picked something that's almost like, yeah, everyone gets it. I'm not saying that everyone must love it, but everyone gets what makes Day Tripper so cool, or what makes
Mhm.
it so deep. As you were saying,
Right.
it feels meaningful, it feels weighty.
Mhm.
If some people might think it's pretentious, but most people will find it to be affecting and wise and observing about human blah blah. This is about a badger who is from Scotland Yard, so
Right.
it's a
Right.
little, like this one is, it's sillier, it's more fantastical. I was really trying to deviate from that idea of presenting something that is, but at the same time, just the way that you felt about the Immortal Hulk, I feel, in spite of the puns, in spite of the comedy, in spite of the silliness, this also has this kind of grotesque, it has violence, it has all these other things that are very pulpy. And so
Yeah.
therefore, like that thing is accelerated, but I also think it has layers. I also think it has
Oh yeah.
a little bit more going on than just either silliness comedy or just violence, or just it's a mishmash of so many things that
Yes.
you can not like one or two things and still find three or four things to like, is the way that I felt about this, which is what I wanted to see, of what ticks the boxes for you and what misses for you, as a sort of litmus test.
God, you're smart, man. You're too. That's brilliant. So what's actually a good jumping off point, I think, for
Yeah.
Granville, because I so one of the things that I was really interested in is like the whole anamorphic idea.
Hmm.
And I'm like, okay, that's cool. Like I still need to read Black Sad. I mean, like there's
Hmm.
tons of stuff I need to get out there and read. That I love Ninja
Usagi
Turtles. We
Yojimbo.
talked. Yeah, your Psycho Jimbo right here.
Right.
Which by the way, I had to consult Angshuman on because I was very confused of what to read because thank you by the way. I'm still confused about it, but you did clear it up. One of the things you just said though, I thought what I was not expecting was the layers. Because on the surface, like you could read this on the surface, and it's a lot of fun to read on the surface. Like it's a niche, right? The whole like anamorphic thing's a little bit of a niche, if you will. And that's not going to be an everyone's in a love thing. But when you have the layers that of the different not issues, but the I think layers is probably the best way to explain it because you're dealing with so many different things. You're dealing with segregation, post 9/11. That's dealing with government, and like capitalism and corruption of all those things on top of again all those things are all issues that these are all being addressed in this comic book about a badger who's a detective. And but it's one of the things that I really appreciated about it. Like I said, when I said I didn't like it as much as Day Tripper, it's not like a thing where because Day Tripper really connected me emotionally, and this is why I was saying earlier, reading Granville was something that I was like, oh, like okay, like this is not just a badger and a detective. When they start talking about the event, right?
Right.
And then all of a sudden about countries invading other countries to France becoming the superpower, and it's like this is way too relevant right now. This sucks, like it's just like,
Yeah,
oh boy,
yeah. So I'll just say that, for
please.
anyone in the audience who hasn't read Granville, this posits a sort of alternate history and it's a steampunk adventure, but it is anthropomorphic animals, so it's completely populated by anthropomorphic animals. There might be some humans in there, but that's
There
it's
is.
a different thing. It's all animals, but it's also that France won the Napoleonic Wars and invaded and conquered Britain. And Britain has been under, and the royal family of Britain was guillotined when they won that. So that's the alternate history part of it. But Britain has, after, centuries, has gotten its freedom, and it's been free for exactly 25 years. Something, I think it's like 23 years or something like that when the first story starts. So it's this kind of weird steampunk alternate history anthropomorphic animal story in which you've got all this technology, but it's sort of retro futuristic technology. And then you've got them sort of going from England to France to Paris, which is called Granville over here, as in order to solve a mystery. So it's from Scotland Yard, and then and that's what it is. So that's the sort of setup for it, but that's also the world that we've got over here. So it's got a little bit of whatever, we can look at it. Anthropomorphic animals too. They used to be really big at one point of time. Uncle Scrooge was out selling Superman. So if
True.
comics have ever
Yeah.
been associated with two genres, it's been superheroes and funny animal books.
Fair enough. Yeah, and Uncle Scrooge obviously is like goated from back in the day, you know. Yeah, which is it Daniel Banks? Is that who wrote and drew?
No, Karl
Um,
Barks.
Carl Barks.
Karl Barks over there. But then you also had Don Rosa later. But of course, it continues into, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles,
Turtles. Yeah.
etc. Yeah.
Yeah. Which yeah. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, I guess, just kind of wrapping up here a little bit, like LeBrock, is it LeBrock? Am I saying that
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Okay. LeBrock, main character here. It just was, it was weird because I definitely was like, oh, I read so fast because it was so interesting as we peeled the layers back, as I realized there's these issues and these themes that they were that Brian is a I had his name up here in a second. Is it Brian?
Talbot.
What's it? Talbot. Yeah, Talbot was bringing up, and like because I'll be honest, actually, when I talk about the human thing, when I saw the humans in there, I was like, whoa, like that was a choice, and like that was a very distinct, very interesting choice of what he's trying to say, and which I really liked, and I loved all of that. That was probably my favorite part of the book. Like the story was fine, I enjoyed it, but it was just really cool to experience like this alternate reality. Excuse me, with like anthropomorphic animals that is so like these themes and layers that are there that are still prevalent unfortunately today. So
So the fact
it's
that the
very
humans
fascinating.
are considered to be humans, so to speak. They don't have any
Yeah.
rights. They work the most menial jobs. They can't have passports. They can't travel out of the country, and that's why they're only in France. But they have the most manual labor sort of things, and they don't have the kind of rights. So it's not quite at the level of slavery, but it is very close. It is very bonded labor, and it is very different kinds of civil rights and different kinds of rules apply to the humans who are called the dough faces because they're so plain and smooth compared to the furry animals. So yes, that's the kind of stratification in society that you see over here.
Yeah. And it
Yeah,
was
and you
so
like
yeah,
that?
yeah.
That part like spoke to you?
Yeah, because I think, just as, any minority group or people like looking down on a whatever group it is, it was just really cool to see that to put that delivery as like as a white male, as and is just being, and this is back in like 2009. It's not like it's now where people be like, this is so woke or whatever. No, this is like delivery, like saying like this is where we're at, like this is where it's just very interesting to put that out there and to show like how like things can be, at least I interpret it as like this is where the opposite essentially was trying to be, and this is where it could easily be turned into any time, depending on who's in power.
Right.
And I just thought that was a very powerful like thing to say back in way before it was like whatever in today's age, we'll just say. So yeah, I just that was really interesting. I like the I did like the I did like the whole, I love the idea of like a mouse and a badger teaming up and like fighting and I love the action scenes. Like it was cool on
Yeah, it's good
Shimon,
action.
good action. But I was like, okay, this guy obviously knows how to do action. I'm like, he's got to have done like some kind of superhero of books of some, when I say superhero, some kind of science fiction fantasy, because you don't. I'm sorry, a comic artist doing this for the first time isn't going to be this dynamic. I mean, like I'm not saying these are mind blowing, but these are pretty. Like if you look throughout this whole series, they're pretty fun. Like this guy knows how to draw action, and I looked it up. I'm like, oh, 2000 AD. I get it. Like that's Judge Dredd. He's worked with Alan Moore, John Wagner. I mean, like okay, yeah, he gets it. Like this guy's British. Okay, yeah, we get it. Like this is perfect. So, cut your teeth on 2000 AD, which is a great comic publishing thing. So many amazing writers and artists have come from there. Al Ewing, who we're going to talk about in a few minutes, came from 2000 AD. So I mean, like 2000 AD is goated. So anyway, yeah, I loved it. I mean, or I didn't love it. I liked it. I think the layers of what is there underneath is what is keeping me wanting to keep reading it eventually. And
Yeah.
that's
So
what about you? Yeah.
yeah, like no, my question to you would be that as you said, there's a lot going on in this. There's a detective story, and there is a murder, and who committed that murder and why is one of those things. But it's also in the classic noir stuff. Like it goes all the way to the top, and it's a conspiracy, and
Right.
who's behind the conspiracy and what are they doing. And then you've got this backdrop, but it ends up being part of the backdrop of that British struggle against the French and independence, and this is a very recent history they have. But you've also got this Tarantino-esque violence and action sequences. You've got like some pretty hardcore sort of torturous fighting and
Yeah.
things going on. There's a lot of and then you have people being killed very brutally, set on fire, etc. So you've got all of these various parts to it, but there's a lot about corruption, there's a lot about power, there's a lot about this kind of thing, while you have all this gunplay and fist fights and this huge badger. And even this badger is not a typical hero in many ways. He's kind of
Yeah.
brutish in one way. As far
Yeah.
as who published this book in the UK, it was published by Jonathan Cape, but I believe that in the US it was published by Dark Horse. So Dark
It
Horse
was. That's
has
correct.
all of the Granville stories out there, and so my question to you would be, what did you not like? What was it that you felt you weren't connecting to? Or was it too text heavy, or was the language arch in some way, or was it like what about it did not quite connect with you?
It's interesting. Like I'm thinking about like what I didn't like about it. Like I'm just like off the top of my head, and there's nothing that I didn't not like as far as connecting to. It's probably like I'll be honest. Like, and this is I'm being a prude. I don't know how I hate to say it, but like anytime like they have to be like we have to have them have sex. It's like okay, I get it. Like we
Yeah.
gotta have sex, and then we gotta acknowledge we gotta have sex somewhere. It's like I'm so done with like we gotta acknowledge this, we gotta acknowledge that. It's like can we just like do we have to? Like like can they just be like connected emotionally? Like heaven forbid,
Okay.
people can't be connected emotionally. We have to have physical penetration somehow, and or allude to that in these books to
Well,
have
yeah,
a
I mean,
connection.
like, yeah, it's not hardcore or anything, but
Well,
so
no,
so,
but
but would you say that bothered you more because they were anthropomorphic animals? Did it go a little too far into the furry territory for you? Like, would it have been more palatable or more
you,
acceptable if you were looking at human beings in a, like when you have noir detective stuff and femme fatales and like the
fair, yeah,
doomed
yeah, yeah.
courtesan and all of that stuff, it's sort of part of the thing. But the fact that they're badgers, is that what's bothering you?
You know what's funny? I think you're right because as I remember, like Day Tripper was way more graphic. Now, Day Tripper, I feel is a lot more based in reality, so I can kind of
Sure.
connect. I can kind of like get behind that a little bit more. this just felt like it was not necessary. Whereas I felt like, at
Hmm.
least in Day Tripper, it served a little more of a purpose. Like he talks about his first girl, the girlfriend he was seeing in the other country, and that's Day Tripper. And he had like some scenes alluding to that, whatever, way more graphic than this. But I think I think that's what it is. I think it's because like they're cute animals. It's like, do we have to have them be like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
I
interesting.
just roll my eyes. I shouldn't. Again, I'm a prude. I guess I don't know.
No.
But
I mean, I think
I think you nailed it.
it's an honest expression. Like to me, it didn't bother me. In fact, I thought it was very much part of this idea that I'm going to take this idea of talking animals or anthropomorphic animal comics, and I'm going to make something really grown up out of it. But just by being grown up, I don't mean it's only going to be sex and violence. But
Yeah,
there's a purposeful thing in it, and I think comics like Black Sad, comics like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, they or the old ones, they sort of embrace that. They kind of relied on that being a subversion of expectation.
sure.
Whereas,
Yeah,
because you're thinking, and I think then again, there are things like Usagi Yojimbo that do a perfect job of being an all ages comic while also having serious things in it, including, a lot of death, a lot of killing, and, suicide and self harm and stuff like that, because you're talking about feudal Japan. So every comic kind of finds its pitch. And I think the thing I like most about Granville is the salad that it makes of these different elements. It's
Yeah.
quite unlike anything else I've seen, and therefore I find it difficult to classify it or compare it to other things, because I'm like, yeah, but that other thing doesn't have this kind of violence, or that other thing doesn't have this kind of alternate history. And when you do have alternate history in sex, you don't have anthropomorphic animals, and when you do
No.
have anthropomorphic animals, you don't have steampunk. And when you do have animals and steampunk, you don't have questions about, because I think it's quite right. They're talking about ground zero. They've got this notion of terrorist attacks, that who's
Mhm.
a freedom fighter and who's a terrorist, and at what point of time does that come into play, etc. And also diplomats being not who they say they are, and countries being much more insidious against each other than they like to pretend they are, or at least they used to like to pretend they are polite on a surface. So because of all of these coming together, to me it just felt like yet another unexpected element that is only in this book. But I completely understand, which is why I was saying there'll be certain things that people will latch onto, and there'll be certain things that they won't, is what I feel. And yeah, I think that's a good observation to say that that one part of the thing kind of takes you out of the story or keeps you from appreciating the story more fully, maybe, and I think that's absolutely valid.
Yeah. So before we wrap up on this, I want to ask you. So I mean, maybe you already explained it. I missed it because I'm
Hmm.
not smart. But did you?
Ah.
Why would or because whatever. Why would you choose this for me per se? What about this did you want to? Why did you choose this for me this time?
Well, because I find it quite entertaining, So I don't want you to
Yeah, for
think
sure.
about me as a fuddy-duddy guy who only talks about like, oh, here's something about philosophy, or yeah, exactly. I'm just hey, man, stop thinking about me as a person who's only going to be like, here's some journalistic stories from war-torn countries and stuff like that. I mean, sure. I mean, the comics medium is a fantastic medium and allows us
It
to
is.
do
Yeah.
a lot of different things. But part of what it allows us to do is to have giant badgers smashing people's heads and shooting them with steampunk type of guns. Like that's a basic fundamental joy of
Yes.
comics fandom that I don't want us to be divorced from. I know, like those things are things you really only see in comics. Yeah, they're only like when you think about a comic story. I don't want it to be only superheroes. I don't want it to be only
Right.
sci-fi or only fantasy. I don't want anything to be only one thing. But I
Exactly.
don't think you need to go so far in one direction that you say we should never have ludicrous things. We should never have weird things. We should never have, strange and odd combinations of things. In many ways, that's what you want to see in comics. Like when you see people talking about comics, they're always like, hey, this is a comic about a samurai nun who, rides a dragon. You're just like, yeah, because
You
it's
know
a
what?
comic.
I'm gonna write that down. By the way,
No, no,
samurai
no. I'm
nun who
sure that
rides a
I'm
dragon. That sounds
sure there is
amazing.
already one out there. I can't be making
I
that
don't
up
know.
completely.
You should write
but
that. That sounds incredible.
But see, this is what I mean. It's like those things can only be comics pitches. So I think that when you think about Granville, every single element in it makes for like a really good pitch. But I also do think that it's a really good story. I think
Agreed.
and
Yeah.
I don't mean story by the plot. I think the plot is a little by the numbers, I think,
Yeah,
of
for
this
sure.
one.
Yeah.
But the way it's executed is so
Yes.
good. Like the guy, LeBrock is such a weird and interesting character. His Watson type of Ratsy friend is such an interesting dynamic that they have between them, the people that they encounter. And then there's so many jokes, like very bad puns. I don't know if they'd even be
Yes.
classified as jokes. It's just bad puns. And I'm just a fan of puns. So I love that part of it. And there's all these kind of little references and inside jokes and things like that, that are there in this comic, like the dog that they go and meet who used to be the assistant, and that dog's name is Snowy Milou. And Snowy he's essentially Tintin's dog. And so all his hallucinations, all the adventures that he's thinking of are all various Tintin adventures. So in many
Which you
ways,
love.
yeah, but it's kind of like it's also got this League of Extraordinary Gentlemen or Fables
Oh,
type
yeah.
of thing, where it's taking
yeah.
all of these little things and it's intertwining them into a world, and that's another thing that comics really do. So I think for me, this is a
True.
great fun read that has surprising depth, that has surprising darkness, it has surprising
Yes.
violence. It's not a light kind of thing, and I really do believe that this series of books gets better as it goes along. As
Interesting.
in,
Okay,
it gets
cool.
more complex. It gets more, I think it just adds more layers onto it, and it does the 5 books in the series are, I think, a great, and I
Nice.
believe that Dark Horse and Jonathan Cape have also put out a big. I think both of them have put out a complete Granville. So
I should just get that.
yeah, yeah.
'Cause
This,
that'd be-
this is the Dark Horse. No, this is the Jonathan Cape one, but it
That's not
looks
too
like
bad.
it looks like this
That's
Granville
cool.
Integral, and it's like all of the Granville stories, all 5 of those volumes in one big hardcover volume, which
That's
is
awesome.
a nice bargain way of picking them up.
Dude, I read mine digitally, but I that looks great. And I definitely plan on reading it eventually, because I definitely enjoyed it. This feels like something like, with the Invincible being as big as it is on Amazon, this feels like be tailor made for like a Netflix show, animated show.
I know, but it's so quirky though, right? I mean, like it's so
Right.
like it's so weird, like because it's if France won the Napoleonic Wars and conquered it's like, who is that even going to appeal to except for a couple of nerds somewhere? I mean, it's like at least Invincible feels like a thing that it's
Fair
it's
enough.
high school drama, it's Avengers, JLA type of superhero group, and it's subversion of things that are very, very familiar. And that's why I like Granville so much, is that it's so peculiar, and it took such
Yeah.
odd ideas to put them together, and in my opinion does such a good job of making a pretty good pulpy, trashy, fun violence sort of story,
Yeah.
sex and violence type of story, that also has something to say about class and something to say about government, but doesn't hit you over the head with it. These things are just sort of
Absolutely.
just kind of a little bit. And I think that's something that some people might not like. They're like, oh, you're just kind of gesturing towards this, you're not really getting into it. And I'm like, yeah, that's also part of the fun, that it's more interested in the gunfights than it is in the political corruption. But the political corruption will be the thing that the story turns on. But I'm not going to spend page after page after page on that. I'm going to spend more pages on solving a detective story kind of through clues, and then fighting people and beating their skulls to a bloody pulp. That's what I thought would be a good thing to give to you, because it's got so many different weird elements in it.
And you nailed it. Like, I enjoyed this. Like, I thoroughly enjoyed this, and I do want to complete reading it. So you succeeded on this. You succeeded for your 2 for 2, Angshuman, which is not easy. I'm a tough customer. You know this. So
you might just be being nice to me, but
no, I know. I trust me. For those who know me, and if my co-host Chris was here, he would tell you, okay, my brother one time told me, you like everything. and my co-host Chris just goes like he's like, how could he ever say that? Because he always like, why don't you like this? Anyway, so I chose Immortal Hulk for you. So I don't do. So so give me your history, because it's not like you have a plethora of devoted people who watch your show for rightful reasons. And you said when I gave it to you and reminded me just now that you are familiar with this. So I'll give my reason to choosing it a little bit later, I guess, or whatever. But what's your history with this? And kind of just take it from there, I guess.
Right. So when it started coming out, some friends of mine said, "Hey, this is a great comic," and they read a lot of Marvel, DC, and we're in a WhatsApp group, and chatter over there keeps me abreast of what's coming out and what's going on, and they read single issues. They read digitally, so they're kind of up on things. Even me reading stuff, I'm a trade waiter and I read only in print. So I don't read digitally and I don't read as things are coming out on a weekly basis, because the only way to read them in India is through Comixology or the Marvel app or, like one of those subscription programs. And I don't like to read online. So the people I know who read Marvel, who read DC and read the weeklies said this was really good. So that was signal one. Then viewers on my channel started saying, "Hey, have you read this? You should read this. I know that," and this is where they were talking to me. They say, "I know you like to read self-contained stuff, not where you've got to have a lot of legacy, a lot of history, etc. Something you can just pick up and start reading. And this is one of those things you can just pick up and start reading. You don't need to know anything about the Hulk at all. And at least I know something about the Hulk, So this is like, if you know stuff about the Hulk, it's good. And I'm a fan of the Hulk, actually. I like the Hulk as a character. The very first issues, like the Stan Lee, Jack Kirby issues, they were fantastic. I mean, I think I read them when I was young, and they were like, a lot happened in every issue. And I think in the first 10 issues, you got everything. Like he could speak as a human, and he couldn't, there were so many changes happening. Like every issue was very different, and there was like the kind of stuff that we would do in an entire run was done in 5 or 6 issues, is my memory of those early stories.
You're not wrong. And that's all early comics, because like in Spider-Man, it felt like I got like a whole arc in like 2 issues. I'm just like, whoa, so
I mean, you had self-contained stories, but it also would be like, okay, he's a monster who can't speak, and then he's making himself into the Hulk by being able to step on something, and then it's almost like he is going into the phone booth and changing into the Hulk. Like Bruce Banner would run to his lab and he would turn on the machine that would make him the Hulk, because he'd learned to control it. And this, I swear, this is like in the first 6 or 7 issues, maybe I'm misremembering it. But anyway, I like the Hulk. And they said, oh, even if you don't know anything at all, you'd like it. And then the main seller for that was, there were some people who said, I don't read superhero comics, or I got bored of superhero comics a long time ago, and this one is getting me back into reading superhero comics, or this one is worth your time because, and I think you were saying this about Granville to a certain extent, but also it's not just a superhero comic. And this is what you were saying is the reason you said it. It's actually about so many other things, and it's using the superhero comic it's using the superhero comic as a vehicle for other kind of storytelling that it wants to do. Most notably, what people had told me is as a horror comic. It's a horror comic, and it's trying to find horror stuff, but it's giving it to you as if it's a superhero comic, but actually it's a horror comic. So those things all intrigued me, but I've been burned many, many times before where people
You've told me your stories. You've told me your stories.
I'm not going to call out any comic.
No. I'm not. I wasn't. I respect.
But there have been people like, oh my God, this is great. And I've read it and I've been like, don't ever recommend something to me again. No, just because they said it was the greatest thing ever, And there have been a couple of times when it has really worked, I think, and I think, like, I know that people have a love-hate relationship, or love or hate Tom King. And also depends on what Tom King has written and what they're talking about.
I love Tom King. I love his stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have not read any Tom King Batman, but a number of his books have really spoken to me. Mark Russell, a number of his books have really spoken to me. I've thought that
Mhm.
these are very good. And Ryan North is someone whose
Yeah.
superhero comics
FF
have
baby.
really worked for me. So, particularly the Fantastic Four, which I also started
So
reading when I was
awesome.
reading the Immortal Hulk, and not the
So awesome.
not the most recent ones, not the ones that are going on in 2025. I was going back, I
The
think,
Doom
to
stuff. Yeah, the very his
yeah,
first run. Yeah.
yeah, his first run. And then I read the Immortal Hulk, and I was like, so that's the context for me, is that those are things
Nice.
that people have recommended to me and I have enjoyed, because that's been that. So some of those people were recommending the Immortal Hulk, so I was positive leaning towards it, but I was also like, man, I read that other comic because you told me to, or you said that one was great and all of that stuff. So I had this push and pull within me. But when you said, like, this is the one I want to give to you, I was like, okay, finally, that tips the scales. Every time someone gave me
Yes.
something positive, I was like something questioning. But that's why, so that's my background on it. And
Okay.
again, as I say, I've also enjoyed other Hulk stuff. I love Peter David's Hulk, which I read,
Yes.
in my 20s. I thought that was a good series of comics from what I
Hmm.
remember. And I'm one of those people who likes Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale's Gray as well. I mean, like
Hmm.
a lot of people talk about Yellow and Blue, Daredevil and Spider-Man, but they think Gray is not that good. But I'm like, I like Gray as well, and I like Jeff Loeb's representation of Hulk as well. So that's my Hulk credentials for you.
You win me over by just saying Peter David. So, but if you're a ball knower if you say Peter David and you read his stuff. So that's all I gotta say. All right, I'm dying to know. Let's get into
Yeah,
the nitty gritty. I'll
yeah.
give my stuff later, but I want to hear what you say. What
Okay,
what's the verdict on this? Like, I gotta know. Like, where are we at?
I like it. So that's my simple thing is that
Okay,
I like it, and I like it more than I thought I would because I was still a little concerned. And I
fair.
have to say that as I was reading it from the first issue onward, I was hooked on certain things, but certain other things were very, very, how can I put it? They were very American superhero comic.
That's fair.
It was very boldly that, and I think some of that, but I think the writing and I think the collection aspect of it, where they were like collected short stories, and they were very similar in some ways to the Ryan North Fantastic Four ones I was reading. Is
Mm,
like he moves to a different town, and there's something
yeah,
in this town, and that is it's like a Twilight Zone, but. I mean, I
yeah,
guess that's the original Lou Ferrigno Hulk formula as well.
yeah,
It's like he
yeah,
goes from town to town to town, and he meets things and people. It's he meets people who need his help, and that is the formula that this, at least at the beginning. And I've only read the first 10 issues, plus that
mhm,
Avengers part
yeah.
that's in the first trade. That's sort of like
Which
the
the great, yeah, like it's like the really colorful one, right? Like it's a well, I have the book here. Let me is it this
yeah.
stuff? Like this one right here? Is it that stuff?
No. It's this. It's this one. It's the little preamble
Oh,
to the.
when he meets him,
Yeah,
right?
no, it's the background. Let me tell you. It's
Here, I'll
six eighty
enlarge you.
four.
Here,
Yeah,
684. Okay,
it's
let me
it's
see.
Avengers 684, and it's only the first 4 pages or the first 6 pages of that.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I know
It's a
what you're
little
talking about. Yeah.
flashback kind of thing, and it's got that. It's got this page over here, which like what
Hold
was
on, let me
that
blow you
book
up.
that Ed Piss? Yeah. So
Ed,
this page.
who was it? Grand Design.
Yes, exactly. It's that grand design. It's that Ed
Sorry, let
Piscor
me.
kind of stuff, in some ways, not Hulk grand design, but it's that notion of taking things that have happened in old Hulk stories and putting them in here, you know, like like
Yeah,
like this stuff. Or all of this stuff is
yeah.
stuff that has happened in other Hulk stories, and you've got the flashback of Hawkeye killing him. So this stuff is there in the first trade, but I think in these first stories, what I really enjoyed was the sort of standalone nature, but also this
Yeah.
larger, darker thing happening, and it had a lot of a lot of things that I wasn't expecting. The violence is one of the things. The body horror is another, and I think there's a lot of death in it, but there's also a lot of coming back from the dead. And where that is usually cheesy in superhero comics, over here is very much a part of the story. It's all about death and coming back from
Well,
being
the
dead.
immortal, the whole immortal. That's I think.
It
Right?
only
I mean,
clicked
yeah.
much later, so you can see how dense I am.
Oh, stop. Well, if I may just jump in for a moment,
Yeah.
that's why I thought was kind of brilliant was because the Hulk is we all if you know the Hulk and if you read Peter David, he's essentially immortal. I mean, are you familiar with if you read Peter David stuff? Did you read Future Imperfect?
Is that
Where
a
it's
short?
Yeah, it's a short.
Man,
It's a him and
it's been years though. Yeah.
okay. Well, it's George Perez and him did a two special like where he takes on his future self,
Mm-hmm.
and he's like the king of the world, and he's an awful person,
Yeah.
and he's outlasted everybody. So the whole immortal aspect, I feel like you probably already assumed like he's almost unkillable, live forever. So when to a title like the Immortal Hulk, you kind of go into it kind of just like meh, but you realize, and it's not, and I don't think it's dense here because you're dense here because the thing is it's a theme that's because it's based on like issues, like it's single issues, it's kind of like only kind of hinted at and only it's like built upon, and it's not like obvious. It's like you have like he goes and meets the guy who's the kid who's dead, who's a gamma, or the dad's like buries him or whatever. Like the death is a theme, but he just builds on top of that throughout the whole series. Like, meets the reporter whose dad is dead. Death is the theme that you realize not until much later, being, these old wounds coming back, this whole idea of being revived and not in good ways. You realize, oh, that's why it's called Immortal Hulk. It's not because the Hulk is just unkillable, but not only is he unkillable, but maybe his these awful things that he deals with are also immortal. Like there's a brilliance to that Al Ewing really brought in. So it's not, I don't think it's your dense. I think it was purposefully like almost like gently brought on. And then it just gets and you only read the first two, it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger as it goes. So
yeah, I could see that ramping up also, in the stories where it's kind of, I mean, not X-Files-ish exactly, when you go from that monster of the week story to the larger mythology, and that starts getting drawn in very quickly, and that's a cool thing that comics do as well, where they give you these standalone stories, but they also give you this longer story. I think when they only give you that longer story, that tends to be when I sort of start, but again, it depends on from when you've been following it. But I thought this whole approach of I'll say that it was a good first issue, but I didn't appreciate it until I got to the second and third and fourth, and I had to sort of put them together. Whereas I think it's interesting that there are people who from the very first issue said, oh my God, this is fantastic. And I think it's a good first issue, but I don't think it's fantastic in that way. The way that the whole thing coming together starts becoming fantastic. And I think in the second volume with the Green Door and even more people dying and then coming back, you just realize this is a kind of pattern that's there. It's not just him, but the people that he's meeting are dying and coming back as well. And some of them are like major characters, even people, that even I would recognize. So again, playing with the status quo and playing with what the world is an interesting thing, which I thought was really well done. And I really started appreciating Al Ewing's writing and the way that not just the thread,
the narrative
that he takes through the larger narrative, but even the individual issues had like a tight little identity. I think honestly, I even like a lot of the way that the story was paced. I just don't know if I liked the art and the coloring, but that might just be me being a heathen. There's something about this coloring that I don't know. It doesn't feel, and I feel odd saying it. It's not like, oh, it's just like these colors. It's like the stories, the darkness. I think in some places it was really good. You know, the shadows and the blacks and all of that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. But when I was reading this, I wished that I wished it was drawn differently. I don't know why. Because it is what it is, you know, it's a combination of the things. And I think the Hulk himself and the ferocity of the Hulk, especially his eyes and his teeth, I thought that stuff was great. But there's something about I thought this stuff was great, but I think there was something about the larger tone that the writing had that I wanted it to be. I don't know what I'm saying. I think I wanted it to be a little differently depicted,
Mm.
where the tone would, because it was standing out too much. As I said, you know, like what I said about like a cliche sort of comic book, like it was standing out as really hard bitten and really not noir narration, but in that sort of like, oh, it's so pulpy, etc. But the writing actually was quite deep at times, you know, but it didn't. But for some reason, when it was put on the page, very often I was like, I wish this was done differently. I wish the same writing was done differently. And sometimes when you got guest artists coming in, and like I saw what they were doing with it, and it was weird and interesting, and I wish that there was like that there was more of them, which you know, I'm not saying it should have all been like you know, the one with the bartender story and all of that stuff. I like this kind of stuff though, you know, like I like that different art styles in these stories,
Oh,
kind
sorry.
of giving their no, I'm just like, you know, this is the like giving their different the different points of
I love
views
that.
in
I love
this.
that issue. Yeah.
Yeah, that was great. I thought that was fun, and I thought the covers were great. But you know, there were certain things like for example, like I'll just give you an example, like this one, like this picture of him over here. Like it's
Yep.
just weird. It's
He
like,
doesn't.
is he a bad
Yeah.
guy or is he like
He
sleazy
looks
or I mean
uncanny.
like
He looks uncanny valley. Like it just looks like
um
it's not. I know what you mean though. Like he does. It's just it's hard to get what the art what the picture is supposed to be doing. Is he sleazy? Is he a
yeah.
bad guy? Is he good? But to be honest though, I think that's the point because Sasquatch is in the comics a superhero, but in this series he's kind of you don't really know what he's out for because he kind of turns on Bruce at some point. I'll just say, and so it kind of almost foreshadowing.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I mean I wanted all the art to look like
Oh, sorry.
this.
Yeah, one second.
You know,
Yeah,
you know, I wanted it to look like that because then the violence and all of the darkness, etc. And I know he's like a square jawed cop and it's a very classic sort of thing, but you know, I've seen people do this. I've seen, you know, Chris Samney do this,
I was
or
gonna say that's Sam.
Stuart,
That's totally a Samney. Yeah,
yeah, Samney or Stuart Immonen can do this. Steve
yeah,
Rude
yeah,
can
yeah,
do
yeah.
this. You know, like there's a sort of classic kind of thing to it, but it would be really subversive to have that be, you know, extreme violence and stuff like that. Whereas when, you know, like, I don't know, like, I mean, I know what this is, you know,
Mhm.
but it's not doing it for me. I don't know how else to
Interesting.
put it. I mean, it's like I get it, but it's not making me feel, oh my God, how horrific. You know,
Hmm.
the writing makes me feel that way. And I think that, but there's, I don't know, it's amping up the volume on something where I thought that the volume was already at a good level. You know, I didn't need it to be
Mm.
louder. So I think the writing and the art are both turning the volume up, and that way it might be interfering with the impact. However, this is something that I think maybe you just get used to because I definitely was more and more okay with it the more I read, you know, and I think I had that sort of block in my head more for the earlier issues. So maybe I just settle into it.
I think that's really a good point because I agree to an extent. Joe Bennett is very distinct, and I would say that he's a little controversial these days to say that too. That being aside, I think this for me, it's hard. I mean, comic is a visual medium, physical or visual medium. If you don't like the art, it's going to be tough to get through anything, no matter how well written it is, right? I think for me, the reason why I got behind the art is because first of all, I think we both agree the way he draws the Hulk, I think is exceptional. I love the way he draws the Hulk. Straight up, he's perfect. That is the most critical for me. The next thing is the layouts. I think his layouts are pretty damn good. Now, how he draws people, probably not the greatest, to be honest. Just normal people. But that being said, I do think how he draws the monsters is pretty cool. Like, I think he draws them well. I just think that the people themselves are probably his weakest, like the normal people looking. It's probably the weakest. And that's a good part of the story too. So, I mean, but I was reading this as it was coming out, and it was I just happened to read the first issue just kind of just by a chance of it. Because at that point you got to realize Hulk had gone through so many like restarts and no one was connecting with it. And the first thing when I started reading it after the first like 3-4 issues on Shimon was I went, this is Alan Moore's Swamp Thing. 1000%. And then I find out that basically Tom Brevoort pitched this, who's an editor at Marvel, to Al and said, I want you to do Swamp Thing for the Hulk. Alan Moore Swamp Thing for the Hulk. And he found it. And Al Ewing, like, I'm not sure if he just liked the Hulk already, but Al Ewing's always I liked Al Ewing from his Ultimate series that he did. That was it's a in 616 universe continuity where he had Galactus as a part of the team. Just leave it there. It's really, I thought it was fascinating. It was fascinating. It is a fun, weird 12 issues, I'll just say. And that put him on the map for me. He was writing some Avenger stuff, but I was like, man, this Al Ewing guy, like, this is pretty interesting. And I read the first issue, and I immediately got like, this is a lot deeper than I anticipated. Like, the first issue I think is incredible. About, if you want to get hooked on this series, I think the first issue is definitely a grabber, because in my opinion, the whole death of like, because the Hulk could take out anything, but the whole idea of like death is precious. And then the guy who kills the little girl, and then this double page spread on Shimon of Hulk going, she was 12. Oh my God. Like, just how Al and Joe deliver that is just, that whole first issue is awesome. And then you read, it gets bizarre and weird. And then as you peel back the layers, you're like, oh, when he brought back, I just want to say, if you don't know who his character is here, bringing back this character as a mystical bad guy, and then have it be a part of this green door thing that he introduces, the whole bringing Gamma into like a mystical thing, like, just blew my mind. I thought it was incredible. And so by this point, I was like, this is the best comic out there, period. And it continued to be, and like, it may a little bit here or there, but for the most part, I bought all the trades. I bought the Panini, like big thick trades of this, because I hate little trades, and I hate omnibuses. They're too big. This was my thing. So the themes of like the past haunting you, like all the things that Peter David and Bill Mantlo laid out before him. And he credits both those writers, like I read Bill Mantlo's run, which I had read some of it already. I finished it. In fact, when we adopted my daughter, I was reading the Bill Mantlo run, which was like very weird to read, because he dives into the whole father aspect. He's the first one to do that. While we were adopting my daughter, we had to drive down to California, and I remember just being like, so I have this weird connection with like the Hulk and my daughter now. And because of that, but Bill Mantlo started it, Peter David expanded on it, and then Al Ewing came in and blew it up. So you could just imagine this trilogy of things, of massive Hulk stories. If you want the best Hulk, you go Mantlo run, David run, Ewing run. And then you can follow it up if you want with Philip Kennedy Johnson's run, which is, it's not as deep as this, but it's as entertaining as this, which I love. And you might like the art more on the Philip Kennedy Johnson's run. It's a lot more might be up more your liking. But anyway, I guess we're kind of wrapping this whole show up. I've been keeping you way too long. I think these are the best Marvel comics written in 20 years. Easily. Wow. Like I think, like, in my opinion, like Marvel never had the Dark Knight Returns. We never had, I say we because I'm a Marvel zombie. We never had Alan Moore's Swamp Thing. We didn't have the Watchmen. And that was always a slight on Marvel. But now Marvel's got that with Tom King's Vision. We have that now with Immortal Hulk. And a couple other things I'm just forgetting. I think Jeff Lemire's Moon Knight is phenomenal. I think it's some of the best. It's some of the best. And now, ironically, Jed McKay is doing more standard, fun superhero Moon Knight, which is amazing. I love it. But like, we have these things now. Marvel has, I think, comic book masterpieces. I think if you read all this all the way through, you'd be like, yeah, this is very, very good. I mean, right. I'm curious. And I think where you stand.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to keep reading. So what I've done is I picked up when I was traveling to visit my sister, I picked up 6 trades on eBay for cheap. So I'm at least going to read the first 6 trades. I think there are a total of 50 issues plus some one spin-offs or one shots and stuff like that. So I think that takes it to 10 trades. Or maybe it's more than 10 trades or something like that. But I know there are 10 trades out there. So I think I'm definitely going to read the 6 trades and I'll see where we go with that. I do like the writing a lot. And I do, now that you mention it, like I did think the layouts were good because my eye was never confused about where it needs to go. Even if you had all of those, tilted angles, you had like the jagged kind of thing. And a lot of times when I read a lot of, flashy superhero comics, I think the layouts are being crazy just for the sake of being crazy. They're not really adding anything to the narrative. And I'm also not a big fan of what I think of as the mid-90s style of doing comics, which is like one big splash page and like 5 bubbles all in one image, or like a whole bunch of text in large images. I really like stuff like, I don't know, David Aja's Hawkeye, which is like that's, panel work and page layouts and all of that stuff.
And that's what in a Joe way does here. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, to me, I was like, I was getting into the vibe. I was getting into the thing. And I really like the writing being more exploratory. I know what you mean. Like nothing in Marvel seems to get the kind of stuff that does DC, but I think it's okay. I've always enjoyed reading certain kinds of, I really enjoyed J. Michael Straczynski's Amazing Spider-Man.
That was fantastic. That's fantastic.
Yeah,
stuff.
I don't need it to be Watchmen all the time. That's good superhero. At least for me, that was good superhero comics
for sure.
Stuff. It had like lore. It had new stuff. It had old stuff. It put it together. And this is what I'm enjoying about this, is that it's really expanding and taking to a new level, but it's also kind of being sort of classic in many ways. Now, I don't have all the references you do, but I can feel it, the sort of classic thing within it. Now, how it gets crazier and all that stuff, I think it remains to be seen. I think the horror stuff has been really played up in the first couple of trades, but you can see a little bit more of that psychology, a little bit more of that hang over the father and what fathers do to sons and those kind of things coming up a little bit more. And obviously,
it gets heavy. Yeah, it gets heavy.
And it's manifested in this way. So I like that stuff being so much a backbone of this storytelling. That's what I think keeps me interested in wanting to read more of this. It's like I was thinking it was reminding me of the Ryan North Fantastic Four because of the episodic nature and because of moving from that thing. But I think by now I'm coming to the part where it really deviates from that, where that stays in a particular lightish tone, even though a larger arc kind of comes in with Galactus. And I think, but it stays fun in some ways, whereas this has never
Yeah.
been fun. It's been like kind of grimy and gritty, and and I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, it's being a little too hard boiled. It's being a little too gritty, and now it's kind of softening into being really impactful, and I'm enjoying
Yeah.
it. So yeah, I like the first issue, but I didn't like the first issue as much as you did, not because of the issue itself, but because it
Mhm.
took me a couple of issues to,
For sure.
like,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. But this idea of waking up in the morgue, for example, right at the beginning, I'm like, yeah, this is something that's kind of interesting and kind of what you're saying, like we've always known, but I don't think I've seen it before. I've never seen
Oh
Banner
yeah.
dead in a morgue resurrecting himself from being a corpse dead. That part of it has either been off page or insinuated. Even the Marvel movie, I think, had Mark Ruffalo's character say, I put a gun in my mouth and the other guy
Yeah.
spat out the bullet. And, so like you've got
Yeah.
these references, but this is the first time I'm absolutely visually seeing it. And that part of it, but I was like, oh, what is this vigilantism and all of that stuff? And I thought it was a little exploitative to kill a little girl in that way, etc. So I wasn't quite
That's
vibing with
fair.
it.
That's fair. That's fair.
But
It
then,
it was a
as
choice.
it,
It was a choice.
yeah, but I mean, like, it's fine if it's like, but I think to do it for shock value means that shock has got to translate properly to the reader. And I wasn't sure about it until I got to the subsequent. Then I'm like, okay, I get
Got
it
you.
now. I
Okay.
get,
Okay.
I
Okay.
get why he did that in issue one. So retrospectively, I was able to fit it into the larger thing. But as an issue one, I thought of it as like, okay, you need to hook me and you need to make me think this guy is really bad and really horrible and all of that stuff. And I get this horrible crime immediately. But this is where I think the single issue form might, like it maybe should have been a double
Hurt.
issue, like the issue one and issue two put together. And I think that's
Not
where
a
the
bad idea.
trade really helps for me, that, I wasn't reading it as a monthly and waiting 1 month to get the second issue. The fact that I can go issue 1, 2, and 3 over here, this is one of those cases where that's an advantage, and I'm able to
Right.
get over
Right.
I'm able to get over my objections very fast.
Right. And let me say this, and then we'll wrap up here. Thank you so much for your time. I think the first issue for me, and again, this is obvious, but I totally can respect people who are into the death as being exploitive. Like I totally get that, and that's a fair argument. For me, I think why it worked because you remember the Hulk is like, because in this, again, to your point too, is like it's retroactively like the Hulk has done things that's killed people, right? Unintentionally, but it's like you have this juxtaposition of this other person who intentionally essentially kills someone, and like you have two monsters looking at each other, right? Like one literal monster and one just a human monster who like did an awful thing, whereas you have like this grotesque monster. And it's like the juxtaposition of that, which I liked. And you have like the whole idea of like the monster, and granted, you could probably not do it with a death of a little girl, but
Well,
murder of you didn't have to do that, right?
Exactly. No. I mean, like, look, I'll be the devil's advocate myself. Is I am a big fan of Brian De Palma's The Untouchables. It's like one of my favorite
love it.
movies. Like,
Yeah,
I mean,
great movie.
it's slick as all hell. And starts with a little girl being killed by a bomb. I mean, like, you got to do what you got to do to say Capone's a monster.
Right.
So I mean, like, I get it. I get the storytelling technique in
Sure.
it. I
Yeah,
also
yeah,
like the
yeah,
fact that
yeah.
that guy is jittery, but him being jittery and what he does, it's like, I think when he kills the other guys that he truly becomes the monster. Up to that point, even the killing of the girl, it could have just been an accident. It could have just been him being jittery
Sure.
and nervous and all that stuff. But then he has to go through and he has to clean up after himself. That's what makes him the monster, to me, storytelling wise. So it's that kind of discrepancy. I'm just like, no, if
Fair
you
enough.
wanted me to see him as a monster and the fact that she's 12, then that shouldn't have been the jittery thing. It should have been someone else alarming him and him turning and shooting. And now that he's shot this guy, he can leave no witnesses and he executes the little girl. Now you got me believing he's a monster. So that even there, there was a little. Now I'm probably getting too much into the weeds over here,
I
but
love it. This is I love for this
it was
stuff.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, but it was like one of those things in which I was like, why exactly? This is just to get my sentiments. This is my, so that you can have the
Right.
double page spread, so that you can say she was 12 in that way. In order to
Right. Right.
have
Right. Right.
that, you've got to have this. So it's like a little bit of that mechanics I wasn't sure about, but I think when I get to the second chapter and when I get to the third chapter and
Yeah.
I see what this series of him going from town to town is, him being able to smell lies, him being able to, all of these
Yeah.
things that he says, like they can sound really cheesy in the first issue, but once you've gotten the hang of why that is, then it's
Hmm.
not cheesy anymore, or that just is the tone, which I think is what I mean is like I settle
Yeah.
into it, which might
Totally.
be, as a wrap up kind of thing, which might be the way Granville works for you, where you might say
Totally.
that, look, this thing is just not my cup of tea. And then by the time you read the second adventure, you're like, he's a horny guy, isn't he? All right, fine.
No, no,
so, so
you're
you might
warning
just,
me ahead of
yeah.
time.
Well, I mean, like you've got to have the courtesan, and you've got to have the girl who's
Fair
at the
enough.
brothel that the hero wants to save, and she's wrapped up with the bad guys. That's part of the same kind of
Motif.
cliche
Yeah.
expositions that
Yeah.
we want
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
get to. But
Fair
no,
enough.
I really did enjoy this. I think the art thing is my own thing. I don't think I think he's an accomplished artist. I think he's a great. It was just my thing where I and it's not like I think any one art style is bad just automatically. Like, oh, this person doesn't know
Mhm.
how to draw people. Like, that's not what I mean. What I mean is the match to what is being written, like the art and the writing have to come together to create the effect. And there are lots of cases, and I mean, a lot of people have pointed this out about the Sandman, that there is
Mm.
really not, that there are times in it that the art and the writing don't match. Not to say that it's not good art, but it just
Mhm.
doesn't gel,
Doesn't
and it kind of,
gel. Yeah. Yeah.
the writing has to do all the heavy lifting. And
Mm.
I think, and this is true for a lot of other things as well. I mean, I don't know. I mean, like somebody pointed out to me, like I am a big fan of Grant Morrison's Animal Man run, from
I
back
need to
in the
read
day.
that. Mhm.
Yeah, but there's somebody who's just like, yeah, it's a great run, but it's got crappy art. And I was like, okay, I wouldn't put it that way, but I think you have a point. It's like, I mean, it's not at the same level. It's not doing the
Sure.
same thing. It's
Sure.
like one of these
That's
things is doing more heavy lifting than the other.
I see your point. Yeah, no, that makes sense. That makes sense. But I'm thankful you're going to try to keep going because I think the story is good enough to keep going. I think you've touched on that, and that's like I want to keep reading Granville. Um, Anshuman, thank you so much for your time.
Thank
I
you.
know being on the other side of the world and a different time zone is just not always easy, and just like, yeah, again, people like as someone who, who very values their time, it is not lost on me when people take time out of their day
No, no,
to
sir.
do stuff like this.
You make it easy. It's an absolute pleasure being on this with you.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, hopefully we can get some, in the next year, before a year, we can do one more of these. So maybe start early on,
Yeah.
start thinking, start thinking of ideas. I got a few ideas ahead, but I'm like, it's too
Uh-huh.
obvious. I'm like, it's
Okay.
too obvious. So
Right.
I gotta think a little bit harder. But yeah. So why don't you go before we leave? Why don't you pimp out your publishing company one more time and your channel, and we'll call it a day.
Well, thank you very much. I'm For the Love of Comics here on YouTube. My publishing company is Indian Summer Press. You can find us on indiansummerpress.com. And we are now taking orders from the US, UK, and Canada. We just started international shipping. The shipping's a little expensive, but if you're interested in my comics, you can order this from our website at indiansummerpress.com.
Okay, because I was always like, how am I going to get this? So I can
Well,
go on your website
yes, you can go on
and
my website and you can pick up chapter 1 and chapter 2. I don't know if I have chapter 2 over here, but this is what chapter 1 looks like. This is The Sun is
okay,
Made of Silver. Me and Nikhil Gulati are co-authors. I don't know if you're going to get this thing. It is a historical action adventure
cool,
drama in black and white, written by
nice,
yours truly and drawn by
nice,
the excellent Nikhil Gulati.
nice. And so, when does Volume 3 come out, or issue
Volume
3?
3 is coming out hopefully in the first week of February. I'm going to the printers next week.
Nice. Okay,
Yeah.
so I think
So it all depends
so
on the
for the-
printers.
So if you want to make the most of your shipping, people, wait for issue 3 to drop and then buy all 3. Because that's what I'm
So
probably
there's a
going to do.
bundle. There's a bundle available with a number 3 pre-order and all 3 of them. And
well,
it
there you
costs the
go.
same for me to cost. It costs the same to ship 3 that it does 2. So you can place that order for 3, and we'll ship it out as soon as the printer gets it to us.
Nice. So I didn't know how I was going to work with international shipping, so I was like, I probably ask you about that. Now that you've told me, I will go out there and I will order it here soon. So go Indian Summer Pub. What's the website called?
Indian Summer Press.
IndianSummerPress.com or is it just,
.com.
I don't know if it. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
IndianSummerPress.com.
IndianSummerPress.com.
I'm gonna go there. You all should go there if you haven't already.
Thank you so much.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, dude, come on. I can't wait to read this. So I'm stoked that you also said you're gonna be doing a show. You think a live show soon? You said maybe. Is that what you told me?
I hope so. I mean, like this is a live thing, but yes, I'm hoping to get back on YouTube proper from February onwards. You know, have live streams. Have.
I'm gonna hold you to it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna hold you to it. All right. Well,
I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to returning.
Yes, you are missed. I know. I'm not alone. So, again, Akshaman, thank you for Granville.
Thank you.
Yeah, everyone go subscribe to all that stuff if you haven't already. Like the video. I should be better about this stuff, but whatever. You gotta do what you gotta do.
Everyone knows the drill. Everyone.
It's not,
the
no
drill.
one's
First rodeo.
Exactly. So everyone, thanks for joining us, and